Moving into the kitchen. Kitchens, bathrooms are going to be our two biggest areas of concern for customers' homes. Lots of water, lots of food, lots of places for bugs to hide. This is where you're going to spend most of your time if you're doing an initial service or a regular service, inspecting and making sure and looking for insect activity. Same thing in here. We're going to work our way from the cabinets around dishwashers, refrigerators, ranges, stoves, upper cabinets, lower cabinets, backsplashes, all the specific areas where pests may try to hide. All right, so once again, we take our flashlight. We're going to look in here underneath this cabinet area. Now, I'm going to come down here a minute. We've got lots of gaps and cracks and crevices in here. We've got plumbing access and pipe entries going back into the wall voids, going down through the flooring of the cabinets underneath the cabinet voids. We've got all kinds of storage space, all kinds of stuff that doesn't get moved a lot. You could have possible plumbing leaks in these areas that you want to look for that may contribute to pest activity. Obviously here we've got cleaners and that kind of stuff, so that may end up helping us in some places because it may be a little bit of repellency to it. But they may have food underneath here. A lot of folks have their garbage can underneath their kitchen cabinet, so there may be food debris in there as well. So, for a customer, if they have a bunch of stuff underneath their cabinets and you cannot get access to treat it properly, ask them to move the stuff out, or ask them if you can move the stuff out, okay? So that you can inspect and treat properly and deal with those issues. Now, what we're looking for in here is we're looking for evidence of insect activity. We're looking for roach droppings. We're looking for mouse droppings. We're looking for active roaches. We may even see an active mouse in here. We may even see some ant activity depending on what the customer's dealing with. So keep your eyes open and inspect. The biggest areas that we're going to look at are going to be around the plumbing access areas where it's coming into the structure. If there's a big enough gap around there, they may need to seal it up with some steel wool or something like that, or silicone caulk or a good escutcheon plate around the outside there. But when we're doing an application, you've got a couple of different options. Obviously, if it's a large enough wall void or a plumbing void, we can use our granular bait application, the Nyban granules in your bulb duster can go back into that wall void. Another possible application can be your residual insecticide dust in your bellows duster into that space. We can also use our bait gun and the roach gel bait to do a bait application around where that area is coming through. My preference on those is if it's a big enough space and they are having issues through there, let's treat that void space in there and then try to get it sealed up with the customer. If they're having an active infestation or active roaches that may be coming through those areas, that's where we're going to use the gel bait, because the gel bait doesn't last as long. Once this stuff dries out, it's not viable anymore. So this is more to control active problems. That's where with the granular bait, the Nyban, it's going to last longer. Same way with the insecticidal dust. Okay? Stop that for a second. Okay. Using the bellows duster with an insecticidal dust. The first thing is on the interior, you want to make sure this thing is not overfilled. The amount of dust when you put the actual dust inside of it only needs to come up to about the top, the very top part of this bottom rung. Okay? Inside of here, if you hear it and I shake it, there's a ball bearing inside of there. You can use a penny, but we want something to agitate that dust when we do an application. Before you apply it into a void, we're going to agitate this, and then when we do the application, it's going to be upside down. Okay? When we do this application and we get in here, we're going to take the tip of that, we're going to put it back into the void, and we're just going to do a real light squeeze. Okay? Rule of thumb with dust is if you can see it, you put too much. That's the rule of thumb with dust. All right, let's get it. Okay, go. All right, kitchen sinks, surface areas. I don't know about you guys, my kitchen sink is not clean. all the time. I try to keep it as clean as possible, but there's, you know, you can look in the kitchen sink here. We got food debris in here around the garbage disposal. Cabinet counters need to be wiped down a little bit. So these are areas where bugs like to hang out. There's available food, there's available moisture. This is where you're going to have a lot of ant activity. You may have roach activity in here, especially when we get into German roaches. This is like a smorgasbord for them. They love this stuff. So these are areas you're going to want to inspect and look around. Obviously, we're going to do it efficiently. We're going to do it quickly. Underneath microwaves is always a big spot. How many people here actually pick up their microwave and clean under it? Every time you clean?
Not every time.
Not every time, right? So if we look underneath the microwave, I know I don't. I'm pretty damn clean.
I did it last week. It was filthy.
Yep. So we look under our microwave here. Even if we lift it up, there's food debris underneath here. Great hiding space. So those are spots to look for. Ants love underneath microwaves. German roaches love microwaves, period. They will live in these damn things. Okay? Refrigerators, dishwashers. Obviously with the dishwasher here, we're going to look around this outside area where the dishwasher goes back into the cabinets. There's always a gap or a crack or crevice in this area. So back in these areas, we can do, primarily here I want you to try to keep it to baits as far as your granular bait applications. Dusts aren't usually a viable option in these areas because it may get blown out when the dishwasher kicks on or it's a high moisture area. You can do gel bait applications at corner spots in here. If you do need to do a crack and crevice application, you can use either the Phantom 2 or the PT221L in those areas, or even 565 as a small crack and crevice flush. Okay? Another spot to look for on dishwashers, on most of these here, is this kick plate on the bottom. Of course. So, every dishwasher is going to have a kick plate on the bottom of the dishwasher that may or may not be removable. Obviously, make sure you've got the proper tools, or if you can remove it. Underneath here, you can have roach activity. Mice love underneath dishwashers because back in here there's a big hole in the wall for the electrical access for the dishwasher, and there's a hole going back into that cabinet for the plumbing access where this dishwasher drains to. So that may be a spot if a customer's having mouse activity in the kitchen or roach activity. You may need to pop that kick plate off. It's not something we're going to do on every interior service, or that we need to do on every interior service, but it's a spot to look for. Obviously, this one's been, I'll fix that later. Okay, refrigerators. Refrigerators are always fun because not many people move their refrigerator all the time. And back behind here is a lot of hiding spaces for bugs to hang out back behind that refrigerator. Most of your refrigerators in customers' homes are also going to have a plumbing access coming through the wall back there for their water and ice through the door. Okay? So that may be a spot where mice, roaches, ants can enter in those areas. Underneath your refrigerator, at the base down there, is the compressor and probably a drip pan for that compressor. That drip pan may have water in it. Bugs like water, they may be in those areas. So if they've got a lot of activity around a refrigerator, you can ask the customer, hey, we need to pull your refrigerator out because I need to inspect behind there. It's not going to be an every time thing, but that's something to look for when they're having those issues, okay? Be careful. If you unplug a refrigerator, make sure you plug it back in, okay? If the refrigerator is too heavy, the customer needs to move it because I don't want you guys getting hurt.
Be careful of their floors.
Be careful of the floors. Preferably on something like that, we need to get the customer's consent before we move a fridge, okay? All right, working our way back this way. We've got our stove and range here. The biggest spots we're looking for here on the stove and range, usually right here on the sides, where you're going to get food debris, cooking grease, oils, whatnot stuff gets down in here. You know, even if you clean thoroughly along the top, unless you pull this whole thing out and scrub everything out on the inside, there's still going to be a lot of fats, oils, food debris that get stuck in this area. Roaches, ants, love it. Okay, so that's certainly a spot to look. You can look to see if you see any insect activity in there. If they do need to clean it up and it's contributing to the insect activity, let the customer know.
If you pull that drawer out of the bottom of any range, it'll go straight back to the wall.
That's
Yeah.
the next spot I'm getting to. So like Matthew said here, in the drawer underneath, on some customers, this whole drawer will come out and it's purely storage. On some homes, if they have a gas range or some of the higher end, they may have a warming drawer underneath there, and that whole thing may not come out. There may be a warming element underneath it or something like that, so be aware that you may not be able to take it out. But if we look up underneath here, and you can see where we've got an old bait box in here, and we got some evidence of some old mouse activity. We got mouse droppings, all that fun stuff. But you can also see where there were some gaps where the electrical outlet came through the wall. You can also see some of the foam and stuff that's underneath here that was used to seal it up. And so you can get roach activity underneath here. Obviously, people don't always clean, generally don't clean underneath this area when they go cleaning, so there may be food debris, there's all kinds of stuff. So this is certainly an area when you're doing an inspection in a customer's house. If you can pull that drawer out, pull it out. You would stop it. Ranges, you may have gas drip plates, you may have drip plates and that kind of stuff underneath here. So if there's food debris and stuff in here that's causing a problem, obviously we can remove burners as necessary. Look for any evidence in here. Now, if we come in here and look, you can see we have mouse droppings that were in here. Obviously, there's oil we need to clean in here, but you will see this in customers' home. You may see roach droppings. You may see live roaches in those areas. So if a customer's having that specific problem, pull it out and inspect it, right? Now, the other thing you can do, and this is not on all of them, but some of them, I think this one opens.
I don't think so. It should just lift up.
So some of these, this whole range surface top may lift up for access for cleaning as well.
Just like a car hood.
Yeah, just like a hood. There's probably a lot of them. They may even have a little prop in there to look in there.
Yeah.
That's another spot you can look up, inspect for activity. Generally, there's a lot of grease. There's a lot of food debris that's trapped in those areas. So the customer may need to clean there. Okay?
Is that all we recommend? Is them to clean that? Don't treat it?
I would recommend, the first thing I would recommend for them to do is to clean it.
Yep.
All right? And if you do treat, that's going to be pretty much baits only in those areas. Okay?
So where would you? Same place? Underneath?
Underneath,
To
you
put
can
the
do a
bait-
little bit. Underneath, you can do a little bit more work. Underneath there, if we do need to do crack and crevice applications with residual insecticides, obviously that is a crack and crevice application where you're going to need to get that crack and crevice tip back to those entry points and treat in there. Okay?
Good stuff.
Okay. Cabinets. Baiting cabinets. Inspecting cabinets. We're looking through these areas. Roaches like corners. Okay? So these upper corner areas here, underneath here, down in the bottoms here, are going to be the areas where we're looking for evidence of activity, whether we're looking for droppings or live roaches. This is also where we're going to look to put our bait products if we're doing those applications if a customer does have active infestation or we find evidence of activity. Another spot that roaches like, especially German roaches, are hinges. They love hinges, back behind these hinges. So that's another area we're going to look for activity. Now, we also want to make sure that we're looking up here in these corners. Okay? Now, one tool that you can use, and these are pretty readily available, and we'll probably end up getting one for everybody. I think some of you guys already may have some, is an inspection mirror. This will save you a lot of banging your head underneath cabinets or looking in that kind of spot. So we can take our inspection mirror and we can stick it in here and we can see the back side of that corner. We can see the whole back side here. We can do the same thing underneath our kitchen sink cabinets as well. Allows us to get the area up underneath on the back side of the sink so you don't have to lay down on your back or stick your head in there or bang your head around and try to squeeze in. Okay? Now, making a bait application with the gel. This one's always a fun one because a lot of folks think, oh, well, the more the merrier, right? And they're going to basically kind of try to run a bead of caulk along this whole thing. Don't do that. Okay, it's not a proper application. The instructions are actually on the label on this, but what we're looking for roaches is about half a gram, maybe about a BB size. All right, so I'm going to show you what this bait application looks like. There you go. That is a proper bait application. All right. Now, if we're making multiple bait applications, we're not going to put them right next to each other. We're going to put them about 12 to 18 inches apart. All right. So if I'm doing another one on this cabinet, if I'm doing it, I'm going to put one in this corner. Oops. And this stuff will run a little bit when it's hot. One in this corner, one in this corner. Small bait applications. If I'm doing it in here, I'm going to put it in this corner here. Back over in this corner here. Top corners, maybe the back corners if necessary. Most of the time, 3 or 4 bait applications hitting the corners, maybe hitting the outside of these doors is more than enough bait to manage the problem. Alright, you can stop. Okay, switch plates. In some cases, you may need to pull off a switch plate. Roaches, odorous house ants in particular, may be inside of a wall void, especially on an exterior wall void. You may need to treat inside of that switch plate area. You know, everybody should have screwdrivers in all of our toolkits. I would certainly recommend having a multi-tool on your belt. This one's a Gerber suspension. I think these things are like $30. They're not super expensive. I've had this one for like 8 years now. They last a long time. It's a good investment. But for most of your switch plates, you're going to need a flat-headed screwdriver, standard head screwdriver to take off. The biggest thing I want you guys to be careful of is don't frickin' electrocute yourself. It's not going to kill you. It'll wake you up.
Good.
I've gotten popped more times than I can. Company I used to work for years ago, we part of our protocol was taking off every switch plate in the house and putting bait back inside the wall void. Yeah, I got popped a few times. You want to come over here, Matt? Okay, so when we look at our wall void here, we can see where the electrical junction box is inside of here. The spot that we're targeting to get product to is back behind this box. Okay, now you may be able to put some gel bait right here in the corners inside the junction box itself, but if we're doing any kind of a void application with the duster, whether it be the bulb duster for bait or whether it be the bellows duster for our insecticidal dust, where we want to get that product is back here behind this junction box into the wall void itself. Okay, so the way these things are attached is one side will be attached to wood where it's bolted in, the other side will be hollow. Generally, you're going to you can kind of look at it and you can see how much flex. You may be able to take your screwdriver and pry this out a little bit. But we're going to take the crack and crevice tip and our aerosol or our pressurized residual, treat back inside those areas, or we're going to take the tip of our duster and treat back inside those areas. Always make sure we put the plate back on after we're done. If you do use a pressurized residual, you want to make sure that you don't have any runoff outside of the switch plate. Okay? Shut off.